Okay, time to start our first meeting of Surf Society. We've got quite a few questions been asked already, so we're going to be talking about those. Welcome to Surf Society. I know it's a bit strange to have a man talking to you. So my background is definitely training women to surf and from all ages. Mostly above 35 is generally sort of the age group that I generally work in. Oldest participant I've had is 65. Youngest in female, probably about 20, but honestly, mostly 35 plus. So, time to jump in. Plenty more about me on the website, so on our school. So, if you want to know more about me or my wife, you can look it up there. So, we're going to jump right into probably one of the biggest questions we get asked, and sometimes it gets asked prematurely. So someone's been for one surf and they've just been hooked straight away and they want to go get a board straight away. So this one is quite a big one and it's how do I choose a board? Now, the sooner you go get a board, the sooner you can get out there, but also the sooner you can make a lot of mistakes by getting the wrong board that's not going to help you progress. So there's two rules with this. One is I'm a gymnast, dancer, snowboarder, pick things up quickly and reasonably fit. I would say that that is 99% of my clients aren't that. They're not fit for surfing, haven't done much water sports, did one day in the water with a surf school, just went straight in the whitewash and went, this is me, I'm on. So that's generally who I speak to when I'm talking about what boards you should buy. So, rule of thumb is if you are 85 kilos or more, then you would be on an 8 foot board. Um, if you're 85 kilos and less than, or less than, then we'll be looking at a 7 foot board. And when I say those boards, I mean a foamy, a board that's made of polystyrene. So it's got a very high buoyancy value compared with polyurethane foam. Whole thing, other thing to talk about, but the polystyrene's got a high buoyancy level, which means it sits higher in the water. It's easier to paddle. If you're small and you go for a bigger board, it's harder to get out. So generally, 7'6" at 65 kilos is kind of the biggest board that you want. Otherwise, you're going to have trouble actually carrying it and getting out. So choosing that board. Look, if you're super tall and super skinny, well, fulcrums and levers suggest that you might need to go bigger, even though you might be 55 kilos, but you're 6'4". So you could handle a bigger board. And just the fact that your head is head and shoulders taller than me will mean when you move a little bit, the board will move a lot. So there is a bit to consider, but in the initial stages, just getting going in the whitewash and having fun, those are the rules. 85 kilos or more, 8 foot or more. At less than 85 kilos, you're generally looking at 7 foot, 7'6", around that size. And you want a rounded nose, none of the sharp nose business. Sharp noses, more tippy. So that's if you're looking at a hard board. But the more rounded it is, the more stability you have in front of you, the more you can make mistakes and get away with it. Plus, all that buoyancy is going to help you catch waves. Super important. So, as we move along, if you've got any questions, just throw them up there, and this video will be left up on our site anyway. If you want to ask questions after the fact, please do. No problem answering any questions anytime. Or you can find in the school platform that Surf Society has lots of videos about these things anyway. Second question. This is a big one. And where should I go to learn? Now, this is a trap. It's definitely a trap because the easy places to surf, you will get told wherever you live in the world, you'll get told those spots where they are, and you will find it really easy. Generally, they break in one direction. It's really obvious where the waves come in, and it's quite easy to get out. And when I say get out, I'm not meaning getting out the back. I mean staying inside close and catching little waves or just a whitewash from those bigger waves breaking. So here on the Gold Coast, that spot is called Currumbin Alley. And it is a trap from the point of view that you get used to this one dimension. You don't learn how waves break, you don't see them coming, and you don't learn to go both ways. You just go one way. So the alley is a right-hander, so people that have been surfing there for 2 years and never been anywhere else will only go right. You'll see them take off on a left-hander on a beach break and they'll go right towards the whitewash because they haven't learned to go left. So initially, first stage is just having fun. Go to the kiddies corner, have some fun. I call them the kiddie pool. I get told off all the time by my wife for this, but the kiddie pools are heaps of fun. But please be aware that there's a difference between going somewhere and having fun and then going to, say, a beach break, which is much harder to read, much harder to see the rips, much harder to see the flow of the water. Usually in Australia is a northerly flow with a sweep. So you've got rips and sweeps and cross-shore currents. These things you use to get out the back, you use them to help you maneuver around, you use them to save energy so you don't have to paddle. But it's much harder to read on a shore break. So we're talking about beach breaks, not point breaks or breaks that are breaking inside river mouths. So they change drastically, but from one day to the next. And we are talking about sand breaks. So the sand moves regularly. And if you feel it dropping underfoot when you're walking out, you can guarantee tomorrow that the sand will have moved a lot because it's soft and the currents are moving it all the time. So if it's soft, the change in that sandbank will be drastic from one day to the next. Often it stays for a while. Often things that seem to form up regularly with sandbanks are actually because there's underlying rocks under the sand. And so the sand banks up against those rocks regularly. Um, it does accelerate your learning if you can go to beach breaks, but I totally understand that everyone wants to go and have fun. So I often ask clients to go have some fun on an easy break, then come to me afterwards for a training session, be tired, so you've got no energy, and we really need to concentrate on using skills rather than power to make it all work. And then you have to read the ocean better. You have to use better techniques to catch waves, and you have to really understand what's going on. And yes, it takes time. It takes time, which leads me to the next question is, I had a really good day today, and the next day I had a really bad day. Surfing's not like going to a skate park or a snowboard park where that piece of snow on that slope stays the same all day. Yeah, it gets hacked up a bit, but you can ride down it 100 times if you want. And if you're practicing a turn or a trick, you can fall off 30 times and the 31st time get it. But when you go surfing, the conditions might mean that you're only getting 6 waves in that whole session in 2 hours, 3 hours even. So putting together understanding the ocean, reading where the waves are coming from, and seeing what's going on so you can get more waves is almost more important than actually surfing the wave itself. Because once you get these things down, then catching more waves is quite easy. So, yeah, it is variable and sometimes it's very frustrating. So I'm a big believer in go to the kiddie pool, get some waves, go to the beach breaks and learn how things are actually coming in. They come in different angles. They change daily. It's not always the same. And you have to learn that right where you are sitting is nearly always not the right spot when the waves come. So you need to paddle, see where it is, turn, get the volume of the board to pop and actually get on that wave easily. Three paddles and drop your head to get the board to tip into the wave. So what I'm talking about, we haven't surfed yet. So we're understanding the ocean. We're looking for land markers. So we've looked from the land, we've seen where it's breaking, and then we've seen that, oh, there's a sweep and a rip over there. So the sweep's going to bring me to here, and I need the rip to help me get out. So you need to start looking for that. One skill. And then you've already picked a land marker. The land marker is here, behind me. There's, say, a tree and a pole. And you use those as your marks. And as you go past them, you want to line them up. Okay. And then if you're past it on the wrong side, you'll see them like that. So you start looking for that. So that's two skills. And we haven't surfed yet. We haven't even gone in the water. We're assessing the situation to find out where we want to surf and how do we get there. Then stamina to paddle out. Then turtle rolling, duck diving, punching through waves. When we turtle roll, when we duck dive, when we just go, oh my God, no one behind me, and toss our board and dive down, hold on to the sand. When do we do these things? It's a whole other skill we haven't surfed yet. Then looking at your land markers and using that sweep and that rip to get to that position, check your land markers. You know you're in the right spot. As the tide changes, these land markers you'll need to adjust slightly, but you'll see it as the wave goes past. And let's say you miss it, look where the whitewash is, where it actually broke. The top of that whitewash is the best position for you to get that wave. All right. So that we've done all these things and we haven't surfed. And then we've got to paddle into position, get the volume of the board to go into the wave as we're lying down, make it pop so we don't have to paddle as hard, add those three paddles and drop our head. Dropping of the head tips the board into the wave. And as we do that, bring our arms by our sides and stand up. So that's a lot. We haven't surfed yet. And I really need people to understand that that's really important to not be hard on yourself because you've got to put all these skills together before you've actually surfed. So that's what our platform is all about, putting all these skills together so you can catch more waves and have more fun. I call them like all these things are like the tips of the iceberg. And you learn all these tips. And as you get better, you get more and more of that iceberg added to your skill set. Some things will come quickly, some things not so quick, and you just need to keep building them all. And once you'll get to a level with it where all of a sudden your surfing skill is on a trajectory like this, and then all of a sudden you get lots of waves and it goes like that. That's when you put all these skills together that I've just mentioned. Which brings me to my next point. Because you have to learn all these things before you even surf, if you start putting them together and you're getting very frustrated, that's when you go back to the kiddie pool, the easy surf somewhere, and just get the fun factor up. Get it up, get on a high, and then come back to the harder stuff. Because learning the harder stuff will mean that you'll go to the kiddie pool and you'll be like, oh, I used to get 6 waves here and now I'm getting 26 because it's so easy and I can see everything that's going on better than everyone else. And you'll actually, if you start surfing with other people and they're like afraid of going to beach breaks, for example, which is really common, and you're not, you'll find that over time you'll accelerate past them in skill because you will get that many more waves than they do. All right. This brings me to my next point. Go easy with all this. So I had a client a couple of weeks ago and she was swearing at herself and being really rude to herself. And I was trying to drive home all these points of other things that you need to learn. But every time she went for a wave, she missed it. And she was swearing away and she's being so mean to herself. And I didn't say anything. All I did is I took her to an easier spot that was closer in, and I got her three waves. I pushed her on the wave. She got the wave. She stood up and she went along for like 40 meters. So happy, so happy. And then she paddled back out. Everything's great. And I just said, who is that other person being so mean to you? Were so mean to yourself, and it was unnecessary because we were actually just in a learning phase to actually put all these things together so we can get more waves. All that happened was I facilitated you getting waves and you were nice to yourself. So I gotta say, please go easy. Go easy. You don't have to be so rough. It's not easy. The surfing of the waves bit, once you start getting up and getting it consistently and getting lots of waves, it starts coming a lot faster. But putting this together, as I've said before, super important. So please go easy on yourself. Um, it's not um, it's not easy at all. And conditions some days will dictate that it's a piece of cake and you get 100 waves. Well, you won't get 100, but you'll get a lot. And then the next day, conditions dictate it's that much harder. And so you don't get a lot of waves. All right. Why is it so hard? It's not hard when you put these things together. So I get asked that a lot. All right. Um, any surf shop will tell you where the kiddie pool is, by the way, the easy waves, where you should go. And you'll often see when you get there, there's lots of learner surf schools. Okay. Which brings me to my next point. Going to those beach breaks, a lot of people don't want to do it because they've been slammed by a couple waves. They've been hurt. So that feeds into fear. And honestly, in the last few years, there's been times when I've been fearful. Like I've been on a reef break in Fiji at Cloud Break, and my board, I've broken my leg rope, and I've had to go across a reef to get my board, and it's literally waist deep. And if the wrong wave had come and smashed me, it would have smashed me into the reef. So, yes, you should have a healthy respect for marine life, healthy respect for the ocean. But the surfing is so great. It makes you so happy that it's easy to overcome these fears once you get a few really good waves. So the training, going to the beach breaks, not going out when it's super huge, or even going for a bit of a swim in between the flags, or going with someone that can save you just for a swim to feel what's going on in the ocean. So a lot of people waste time wiping their face after they've tossed their board because it's too big. They've dived under the wave. Often they don't hold the sand. You want to hold the sand. You want to be in a 100-meter sprint position. So as the wave goes past, you're there. You've dived under. You're holding the sand with three limbs because the wave's going to take the limb with the leg rope on it, and you just let it go. Don't try and hold that leg on the sand because the wave will take it regardless. The bigger the board, the more it'll take it easily. And you're in a 100-meter sprint position and you're ready to spring forward and up. So really important to be ready to go. So what you're doing is you're feeling that wave go past, and as it relaxes on the board, because that'll be out here, you push up and out. Your first thing you do is you're looking straight out to sea. You do not wipe your face. You look to see if you need to dive under because there's the next wave going to hit you. If it is, you repeat, you rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. What you're doing each time that wave has gone past you, as it eases, there'll be a little pushback. So the wave will go, and then there's a little pullback as the next wave comes. So that little pullback is when if you're touching the sand, or even if you've dived down to the sand and you're pushing up, you swim a bit because that you use that water to get you out. All right. So let's say the last waves come by, it's sucking out a little bit. As it sucks out, without looking, keep looking out to sea. You need to see what's going on because you're deciding whether to stay or go. Now, if it's like there's no more waves coming, there's a lull, and it's time to go, you want to grab your leg rope. You know where it is. You don't need to look, and you're pulling your board towards you as you're moving out. If it's fairly shallow, you go as fast as you can, and you turn the board and bury the tail and lie down and almost get the volume of the board to pop as well as you go, and you paddle hard. When you get out the back, then if you need to wipe the water off your face or adjust your hair, which I don't have to do, which is awesome. Although sunburn sucks. That's the time to rest. All right. If you stutter in any of this situation, if you do not move forward after you dive under a wave to get out each time, and then as you're getting your board, if you're wiping your face instead of getting your board and going, there's a good chance that the frequency of sets, if it's tight, that you'll get stuck there for the next set. If you get stuck there for the next set, then how much more tired are you going to be to paddle out for the next set? So if the frequency is small, if you get stuck for 2 sets, there's a good chance you're going to get stuck for 5 sets. 5 sets of waves, you'll be wrecked. So in that case, you're better off just going in, take a rest on the sand, and look at the timing of the waves. If you have a watch on, even time the sets. But this is critical to you getting out in between those sets. We call in between the sets a lull. So using those lulls to get out is really important. You don't just go in the water and go. Well, you'll see people like me do, but where I'm on shortboard, so I'm duck diving and I've got the stamina and the skill set to deal with whatever's coming. So if I get hammered by 5 sets, I will still be able to get out because during those 5 sets, I'm resting. I'm not actually fighting the waves at all. But initially, you will fight no matter what because it's hard to disengage what comes naturally. But slowly, you'll perfect these skills, diving under without the board, and later on the turtle roll, and then a bit later on the duck dive. The duck dive is super important. That leads me on to my next point. If you can get hold of a shortboard, it doesn't matter how bad it is. If there's glass torn on it, just put a sticker over it. It doesn't need to have fins. What we're looking to do is learn to duck dive before you actually need to. So if you're planning on, and honestly, a lot of people go, "Oh, I'm not planning on going to a shortboard." And I say, well, how do you know? You've never done a turn on a shortboard, and you might do a turn on a mini mel one day and go, oh, hang on, I want some more of that. And then you'll go short. And what happens a lot, and I've got a client in an hour, and he's in this position now where he can ride bigger waves, but it takes him 3 times longer than it takes me to get out the back because he hasn't perfected his duck dive. So I've had to take him in flat water instead of surfing, perfect the duck dive so he can then get out easily so he can get more of those waves. So what you do is you learn to duck dive before you need to. There's another reason to do this. So if you can do a straight duck dive on a little shortboard, then you can also start learning to do a scoop duck dive. So when you have a mini mel, there's too much volume ahead of your head. So it's all here. And that volume stops you getting the nose down to get under the water to push under and go under a wave and come back up. It's almost like the diving that I was explaining before. You're almost diving under just the same as you would without the board, but this is with the board. So a scoop duck dive is actually twisting sideways, overcoming the buoyancy and taking it sideways. And you can only do it shallow, and you can only do it with a spilling wave where it's just spilt over. But it gets you out the back so much faster. It's actually a lot faster than doing a full turtle roll, which is tipping your board right over, letting the wave go past, and when it abates, you've got to flip back, and the flip back uses quite a lot of energy. So if there's the opportunity to do the scoop duck dive, it's gold for getting out. It saves you a lot of time, which saves you a lot of energy. All right. Now, I don't have they're sort of like my top questions I get asked a lot. Um, so one other thing that I wanted to talk about today was tension. So a big issue that I find is that people don't know that they're adding tension to their paddling. So at first, when you paddle, it's just your shoulders, muscles up here, a little bit down here, and your arm is quite tense. Now, what we want is as much as your arm is the paddle and not your hand, not just your hand. So we're not paddling along like a cat, just cruising. We want to be as much of the arm in the water as possible while still working on having our chest and head up. Um, we utilize body weight to help catch waves easier, and also if our positioning's wrong, we use that to change our position or change where our weight is to help us get a wave if we're slightly off too far back. Or sometimes if we're too far forward, we arch our back more to just pull our weight back. So you can still catch waves without making an adjustment. Because if you make an adjustment when you're going for a wave, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to catch that wave. That slight adjustment costs you a millisecond and too late. You miss the wave. And so smooth and slow, learning all these skills is the way to go, not fast and dynamic. Smooth and slow will get you fast and dynamic later. So paddling mistakes, tension. Um, I had a client this week and she was getting cramps in her calf muscles. It's really important to note that she wasn't, there was no reason to use her calf muscles. She complained of cramps, and then I was paddling behind her. We've done plenty of flat water paddling. She's been able to relax, but in the waves, automatically when the board's going over waves, especially when we're paddling sideways to the swell, her calf muscles would switch on, switch off, switch on, switch off. Now she had no idea. She just started getting these cramps. So flat water, it didn't happen. Happened in the surf. So I just started on her Komodo dragon paddling and getting just to think about that. Forget about the waves. Relax the legs. As soon as she relaxed, cramps went away. No problem whatsoever. Now, also, when you tense your legs in any way, so often it's quad, thighs, buttocks, um, calf muscles, it's usually either you've gone left hand and or whatever, it's opposite. It's opposite to the arm that you paddle with, usually, not always. And then quite often, if a wave tips the board, the leg will come out or tense up to try and tip it back. The board's equilibrium is to sit flat in the waves unless it gets tossed by whitewash. Okay, so if you're out the back or in a spot where there's no whitewash, there's no reason for that tension. So the more you relax on the board, the less tension you'll have. So what we're looking for is to relax more. Now, it's important to understand too that when there's tension added that's involuntary, you're actually using energy to do that. So often a surf buddy is gold for seeing these problems. So it's very easy on land to go, this is my technique and da 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 da, da. And then you get in motion in the ocean and those techniques start to fail because of tension. And I can't reiterate enough that you need to relax. So much of catching waves relies on you to make adjustments. And if you've got tension, you can't make adjustments. Also, you lose your stamina goes way down, way down. So the more we use more of a relaxed body to paddle, the easier it is. So it's not rocket science, but it's a lifetime of doing things a certain way and changing it drastically. Um, so I'm not asking you to change a program that you have. If you already have a program in for paddling, what I'm asking you to do is make a new one. Because neural pathways, if they're well trodden in one direction, it's very hard to make an adjustment. So what we do is we use a small thought to make a new program. Okay, so a small thought to make a new program is much easier than trying to adjust a program we already have. So, tip of the iceberg here, but instead of paddling with one arm, or both arms, sorry, but instead of using the arms only and just all muscle power, just start trying to keep a distance between the shoulder and the ear the same and just turn the chest up. So I'm not reaching with my shoulder joint, I'm turning the chest up. The more we can do this, the easier paddling will get. This distance is me just trying to get you to use more of the body. The more you do this, the more of your body. Now you can do it straight, but it's harder to get the coordination right to create a new program. So what we do is we do it big. So this is my center line. I want to keep that ear distance to the shoulder the same. Then I want to bring me off that center line a lot. So it's kind of like, think of a shark cruising, and then when it goes fast, it goes diminishes the movement. So the more of the body that you get involved, the more you diminish this movement. So it's just will look to everyone else like normal paddling, but you've got just more of your body involved in making this motion. Okay, so we're using more dead weight to move the body rather than actual muscle, which honestly, this area here and this area here, they get burnt out very easily. And once you burn them out, it's very hard to keep going. You get very tired and you need a rest. So if we can relax that more and use more of the body for the initial pull, you'll find it much easier. I actually, when I'm paddling, say across a creek or paddling out to the surf, I only paddle with my body and which only pulls my arm halfway because biologically it can't pull it the rest of the way. You have to use muscle and shoulder. So what I do is I let the water take my arm out of the ocean, and then I use my body to throw the arm forward again. So I'm only doing a half paddle, but because I'm using my body to pull the arm, it's really powerful. It's not using a lot of energy, and it gets me out the back quite quickly. And to my friends and anyone else that I surf with, it kind of looks like just a messy paddler. It doesn't look clean and neat. It's lost a lot of its elegance. All right. So I just got a question here. Let's see what they say, what they ask. Oh, this is a classic. So I'm checking Surfline. It doesn't look good. Should I cancel going to the beach today? And the answer is no way. No way. Um, this happens to me a lot. Oh, the conditions are terrible. I've checked the cams, which are always from a high point of view, which makes the surf look really small, but it's almost irrelevant. Like, if you're the person that'll drive to the beach and go, oh, conditions are just not nice, and go have a coffee and go home, then you could also be the person that suits up at home, put your sunscreen on, your hat, everything, wax your board at home, and have it ready to go in the water, and you're ready to go in the water, and just blindly go. Big waves, small waves, no waves. There's always something to learn. There's always something that you could do better. And just by going in the water, you'll feel so much better for it. So something that I'm very hot on is don't cancel your plans. The conditions could be disgusting, howling winds. Go to a sheltered spot in a river, a creek, and practice your paddling. Practice the popping action. Practice a 1, 2, 3, drop your head. The drop your head motion is also something that you use before you duck dive to get the nose down. So practice that. You will always, no matter what the conditions, come home and go, I'm glad I did that. Or go to work and go, I'm glad I did that. I do it all the time. I'll come back from a surf and my wife will go, what was it like? Ali will go, what was it like? And I'll go, oh, terrible, but I had a good time. So yeah, so I've got a guy asking me right now, should we go out? And the answer's always yes. Conditions can be disgusting, but should you go out in all the conditions and learn something? Yes, you should. The only time you shouldn't is if the beach is closed because the surf is massive and dangerous, then possibly go to a creek or to a river or your own swimming pool, take that dip. You'll feel much better for it. And in the middle of winter, that cold water certainly wakes you up. And I'm always surprised by how often, even at 51 years of age, going, oh, I don't want to go. It looks terrible. But because I've already suited up and my board's ready to go, I'll just go. And I always get a wave. I always have fun. And I always come back much happier for it. So I think it's really important. Um, I think that's probably enough for today. I think I've answered everyone's questions. Yeah, looks like it. I really hope you've enjoyed this session. The next session is going to be with special guests, and we're going to do a lot of special guest sessions. We want different perspectives, different locations, and we're going to go through making boards with famous shapers, repairing boards. And the number one causes of board damage, we'll be doing interviews with coaches and we'll be asking them as well, what kind of coach should you look for? And what kind of questions you should ask. So these are really important. And also we want coaches that if you resonate with a coach that's a guest with us, then that makes it easier for you to look for a coach out there in the real world. And we'll be asking that coach what questions they would expect a beginner or intermediate to ask to get to the next level. All right, so there's going to be a lot of that. I'm so excited to do it. I'm sorry Ali couldn't make it. She had to go to one of our kids' school today for something, and it was unexpected. The next one, we'll have her on board as well. So pleasure seeing you all today, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Cheers. Bye.